What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I want to start off this episode by saying thank you to every single person who has subscribed to my channel. Helped me on my way to 400 subs. I'm about 80 subscribers away, so please help me get there. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, and hit the bell notification. So today, what we're going to be talking about is how to catch more bass in Arizona canals. I've been fishing Arizona canals now for over 15 years. I first started when I was about 6 years old with my dad, but I started going out by myself when I was like 8 years old. My dad used to live at an apartment complex right around the corner from a canal, and I would go right out there, and I'd have weekends where I would have 70 bass days, Saturday and Sunday, both days. It was incredible. I would just walk along the canal, fish where any sort of structure was, where any sort of like little waterfall, any sort of a movement in the water. Because a lot of the canals in the east side of the valley, they're relatively shallow. So during the summer and the warmer months, you always want to look for any sort of water movement, and a lot of fish hold in those areas. There's also a lot of people that throw grocery carts and whatnot in the canals, and those are good little structures for people to be able to catch fish off of. Also pillars, little bridge pilings, things like that. So today I'm just going to be going through a couple baits that have personally worked for me. Everybody has their opinions, but just what's worked for me throughout all the years. Like I said, I've been fishing Arizona canals by myself now since I was about 8 years old. My dad would let me go out and he wouldn't see me all day until about 6 o'clock, until about dinner time. So let's get this started. Number one thing about bass fishing in canals, you don't always need a big bait. You have to match the hatch in canals. And what is a better way to match a hatch than baby tilapia? There are so many tilapia in these Arizona canals. They reproduce year-round, and they reproduce like crazy. Perfect source of food for these largemouth bass. So first I'm going to start off with the basic little swim bait. Paddle tail. Doesn't matter if it's a basic straight up or if it's one of these. These are I believe these are those power bait ones. These ones work really well. Normally I do like this off-white. The off-white works really well because it does resemble those tilapia, and usually about 2 to 3 inches is a perfect size to be able to catch those bass. They just see it swimming through the water and it's like, man, look at that looks pretty tasty. I think I'm gonna eat that. And you can also go with any other different colors, but primarily I notice that off-white colors work the best in the canals. Not white, more of a pearl kind of off-white, I notice works best for me. I know a lot of guys that use plain white and they catch fish, but me personally, I just like the off-white. I think it reflects through the water better, and I think the fish just like it more. Here's another one, just same exact thing, that little power bait. This one kind of resembles like a little bluegill, and that's an excellent color too, especially in the mucky water. They just see the silhouette, that dark silhouette swimming through, and they smash it. So that is the first bait. The second bait, you always have to have some sort of soft plastic. 1 second. So you always have to have some sort of soft plastic, and what better way than a Senko? I normally use a watermelon red, a green pumpkin, or even just a plain old white. Those are the 3 colors I usually use. I'll occasionally use a June bug if the water is really chocolatey. And that was weird, the GoPro just turned off. Random. But anyways, as I was saying, I usually use June bug only when it's really chocolatey, really dark, murky water. That's the only time I really ever use that. But primarily I'll use watermelon red, I'll use green pumpkin, and I'll also use a white. I'll rig them in a wacky rig. So I usually use a size 2 wide gap hook, and I just put it right in the middle. And then so when you work it, it flicks up, and you just twitch it and let it just sink in any sort of bridge piling, any sort of wood, any sort of structure. Usually the bass will chomp on it pretty quickly. I mean, I really enjoy it, and that's one of the coolest ways to catch fish, because you see your line just start swimming out. And I mean, when you see your line swimming out, it's that quick adrenaline rush, and it is awesome. It is so much fun. Another way I'll use it is as a Texas rig, a weightless Texas rig. So that when you're popping it through the water, it just looks like a little bait fish that's really injured, or it's just a dying bait fish. And they see it, and I tend to get hit on the drop. That's when I get it, or right at the pop. So that is another excellent technique that you can use. Wacky or Texas rig, both weightless. Very simple ways to fish. Thirdly, a little spinnerbait. You don't need these 3/8 ounce, these half-ounce spinnerbaits. This little tiny Strike King spinnerbait has caught me more fish in the canal than any little square bell, any sort of big spinnerbait has ever caught me. I mean, you're gonna catch bass ranging from 1 to 2 pounds. If you're gonna use a bigger spinnerbait, you're probably gonna catch a bigger bass. Odds are, but I mean, those 1-2 pounders, they'll still hit those big spinnerbaits. But I personally like these small ones. It's easier for the fish to hit. They see that reflection swimming through the water. It's a smaller profile bait year round, so it's just easy for them to attack, easy for them to just munch on. So that is an excellent technique that you can do. And I don't even use a trailer on this. Never ever use a trailer on that. There's no need for me to, because it's just enough flash in these Arizona canals that when you're swimming it right by I like to cast these. If you're looking at the canal and there's stair steps, you flip by the stair steps out just a little bit, let it swing down, get the blade spinning, swim it right by the staircase really slowly, because the bass like to hang inside the little pockets, and just that's where they ambush the prey, because they sit inside there for the shade during the warm months, and they swim out and they crush these. You don't need any sort of trailer or anything. You can. I mean, you definitely can. I mean, I've used little 3-inch squiggly tail grubs before, and those definitely add a little extra weight, and you can cast a little bit further down the canal if need be. But that is another excellent technique that you can use. And I'm just trying to go through super simple techniques, just because, I mean, you only really need a handful of baits to fish in these Arizona canals. You don't need a whole lot. It's very simple to do. And I mean, there's certain canals that hold more fish than others, but you should be able to catch at least one bass in every single canal that you go to, especially if you just cast and you're walking down the canal. Always flip at any sort of structure that you see, any sort of like little pocket, any sort of inlet, any sort of any sort of inlet, any sort of bridge pilings, anything that you see, any water flow, anywhere where a fish would hang, just cast there. And odds are you're probably gonna get hooked up, or you're at least gonna get a bite. Now, the number one bait that I always use in canals, and I have caught more fish on it than any other bait I have ever used in any canals. A lot of people underestimate this bait, and all it is a little crappie grub. That's all it is. I mean, it's the most underestimated bait. I've caught giant tilapia on these. I've caught giant bass on these. I've caught catfish in canals on these. I've caught every single species on these little grubs. They for some reason, I mean, they're a perfect size, 2.5 inches. That's all you need. It resembles a perfect little tilapia, perfect little bait fish. Sometimes little shad get in canals, and it resembles them perfect. I mean, just how that thing kicks through the water. Granted, yes, it does sink a lot slower, but I think that's one thing that also helps. I think that slow drop really entices those fish, because it's just so slow they can't resist it. I've caught most of my fish on these little grubs by flipping up against a wall, or flipping it right by a staircase, or inside the current. I let the current just take it, and 9 times out of 10, when I just let the current take it, I get bit. I don't even have to reel it. Or when I cast it up against a wall and it just has that slow drop, my line just instantly goes tight. I do one reel, line goes tight. I hook up. And then just also super slow retrieve, because you don't want to move it too fast, because it is a smaller bait. You want those fish to be able to see it and gauge it and be able to just annihilate it. So you really just want to allow the lure to do its thing. Just a super slow retrieval. And the line that I use in canals, a lot of people look at me when they see me catch fish in canals. They'll come up, they'll be like, oh, what'd you catch it on? I show them that 9 times out of 10 I'm using a little crappie grub, and they're like, no way, you really caught it on that? I'm like, yeah, this is usually what I use. And they're like, well, what kind of line do you use? I only use 6 to 8 pound test. That's all you need. Now there are some canals that are very steep, and you'll either need a net or you're gonna have to climb down the staircase. In a few of my past videos when I've caught some big bass, you guys can go back and check them out. I'll have them linked below. I usually have to go down the staircase. Even if the bass is usually about 2 pounds, I'll have to go down the staircase, unfortunately. That's the only downfall about using lighter line. But the lighter line allows you to get more bites because it just disappears in the water. Fish don't see it. It's not as thick. And not only that, when you hook up with a big bass, just hold on to the rod because your reel's gonna go screaming. It's so much fun. I use light tackle in the canals. That's all you really need. You don't need anything heavy unless you're carp fishing or catfishing. But I mean, those are the 4 baits that I use. So like I said, my number 1 go-to is just a little off-white or pearl paddled little crappie grub, just like this. You can use a basic lead head, you can use a pink grub head, a yellow and black, a black grub head, it doesn't matter. Usually any of them work. I just primarily in the canals go with this just because it's just usually what I have on hand. And obviously the little spinnerbait, that works excellent. The little Senko, white, occasionally June bug, watermelon red, and green pumpkin. Those are usually the 3 colors I use. The June bug is just off and on, very rare. But wacky rig Texas frigate. And last but not least, you got the 2. Here, let's do this. There you go. The 2 little power bait swim baits. They don't have a whole lot of action, but for some reason, they shred fish. I mean, they shred them. And there is one bait that I do want to check out in a canal. I'm going to be doing probably a couple canal videos since everything has been going on lately. So I'm going to be probably fishing canals a little bit more. And that is the Dark Sleeper. I believe that this little bait will shred the bass in there. This one is a 3/8 ounce. This is a tiny one. This is like a 2.5 inch one or something like that. Very small. I found this at Bass Pro. Normally I order them online on Tackle Warehouse, but I found that one at Bass Pro. And I bought a couple of them. I figured that off-white with the yellow stripe down it is a pretty good resemblance of a little tilapia or a little bass or any sort of little shad or any little fish. But that covers my quick little tutorial how to catch more bass in Arizona canals. If you use any of these techniques, I really recommend the little crappie grub. I'm telling you guys, give that a shot. It's incredible. You're going to catch a lot of numbers, maybe not the best quality, but you're going to have a lot of fun with catching all those numbers. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you guys kind of gauge and give you a couple ideas to be able to use in the future in the canals. Please make sure to like this video, subscribe to me. Thank you so much to everyone, and we'll see you guys next time on Southwest Fishing.